Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. Jim and Steve here on April 17th, so don't panic if you didn't get your taxes in. You have a month leverage due to the pandemic.
I'm not panicking. I'm picking up my finished taxes Monday,
Okay,
and we go from there.
congratulations.
Well, thank you.
But we got a lot of stuff that we want to talk about today, and first of all, our opening segment, the monologue, is sponsored by Coriano Trucking, who, by the way, we send out our best wishes. Chairman of the board of Coriano Trucking, having a medical concern, and for him to, have to take a couple days off work, it's serious. So,
Yeah.
But he's going to pull through. Everything's good. He's tough as nails, and we thank them for their sponsorship.
Yep, Guy, we're thinking of you. Hopefully you got your neck collar on as you're lying in bed from football.
His hospital gown with a number 2 on it.
The old-time neck brace,
Yeah.
the neck collar.
This is our first sponsor slash,
Yeah. Get
shout
well.
out for
Get
our
well,
sponsor.
Guy.
You bet. So I got the monologue this week, Steve, and
Uninterrupted.
yep, 2 minutes uninterrupted. Comments to follow for sure. And my monologue is it's NBA related, right? And this is gonna suit very well for our friend Mike Garvey down in Naples, Florida, who's a big NBA guy, Miami Heat guy. But I wanted to bring it up because Steph Curry passed Wilt Chamberlain on the all-time Golden State Warriors. Golden State / Philadelphia / San Francisco, whatever. And congratulations to Steph. He's a lights out sharpshooter, one of the best shooters in the NBA history.
He's the best.
But I wanted to bring this up because he passed Wilt Chamberlain. When you first asked me the question, I said it's got to be Rick Barry has the most points, right? And he was third, But anyway, Wilt Chamberlain only played 6 years for the Warriors. And Steph Curry is in his, 12th, 13th year. And it's not diminishing his accomplishments at all. But I wanted to bring this up because we talked about this. You and I have always said, who's the best in their sport. And this is Gretzky related. Nobody could break his records. We talked about it on the show a couple weeks ago. But that one season, Wilt Chamberlain averaged over 50 points a game, which, today, if somebody scores 40, ESPN lights up. Highlights, for the first 20 minutes of SportsCenter. Wilt Chamberlain averaged, in 1961-62 season, 50.4 points. And that's unbelievable. And I just wanted to bring it up because when we talked about Jim Brown being probably the greatest running back ever, but Wilt Chamberlain averaging 50 points, and you know what? The next year he had an off year. He only averaged 44.8 points per game. So I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, Eric, last night on the phone. Him and I are always back and forth. If you were starting an NBA team, what player would you pick? And I said Michael Jordan, probably the greatest player. You and I have talked about it. But I just wanted to bring that accomplishment up for Wilt Chamberlain, 50 points in a season. And Steph broke his record, but it took him 7 more years to do it. That's my monologue. That's the NBA. And Mike Garvey out there with his new puppy. I wanted to bring it up, and that's a wrap. Feedback now. Here it comes. I gotta put my helmet on.
No, it doesn't diminish anything about Steph Curry. Steph Curry is the greatest shooter in the history of the NBA. It's not even a debate anymore. I mean, what he's doing this year is incredible from his 3 points. I think he's averaging over 50%, if I'm not mistaken. He also had his 19th game of double-digit threes. 19. The next guy has 6 all time.
But I wanted to bring it up because when you put it in perspective, Will Chamberlain was only probably a 55 to 60% foul shooter. Imagine how many points, because you know how many times he
Yeah.
went to the line.
Yeah.
But wasn't he a stud? I mean, just an iconic figure in NBA history.
Of course,
you know?
the 100-point game in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Will Chamberlain. But the knock on Walter still was the lack of championships, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe that he only had,
He could have gone down as Marino, right? One of the
He
greatest
could've.
of his craft.
but his nemesis was Bill Russell.
Who won, what, 10 out of 12, I think?
Right. It's crazy.
But what an accomplishment, though,
Sure.
right? I mean, what a stud player. And you couldn't even dunk back then, Literally, you see all the old highlights of Will Chamberlain in the early 60s and the early 70s with the Lakers. You could right? You couldn't even dunk the ball.
Sure.
So it was an awesome accomplishment. Congratulations to Steph Curry. And I knew Rick Barry was right behind him because he was pretty good. Chris Mellon's up there, too.
Sure. I would think so.
So let's move on from the monologue to our Masters recap.
Yes.
It was a week ago tomorrow that Hideki Matsuyama wins the Masters. It's bigger than it was a global win. Let's call it that way. Right?
He's Emperor Hirohito now in Japan, pretty much. Status. Right? I mean,
Legend, though.
Oh,
I mean, he's a Gretzky, Babe Ruth,
again,
everything.
Japan takes their stuff pretty seriously.
There you go.
So this is quite the accomplishment that he wore the green jacket when he flew back to Japan.
And he went into the final round, and you know what Masters Sunday does to people. We've seen the Greg Norman collapses and the whole thing.
He had a 4-shot lead going into the final round, and the first couple holes, it got down to what, 2, I think?
3, maybe?
No. And after that, he just played steady golf.
The kid Will, Zalatoris was in there. And
I got to tell you how impressed I was with him.
we talked about him.
I know, but I never heard of him until last week.
Yeah.
And
We'll hear from him
he's a
again,
young
that's
kid,
for
but what a machine he was. And he looks like a golfer, plays like a golfer. And I think we're going to hear. And again, it just goes to the point of how many young kids are so good.
Exactly.
And we're going to have to, put him on the list and watch him.
Yeah, and there's a lot of young kids, but you got to get the kid handle himself, Hideki Matsuyama, with class,
Oh, yeah.
grace. And you saw what happens on Masters Sunday. Justin Thomas was up there, and then boom, he's not, right?
Yeah.
Bryson up there, and the question could come up.
DeChambeau.
Is he too big? Is his drives too long? He was in the pine straw most of the all of Sunday for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm a fan of him, to be honest. Before the tournament, he's playing with the media. Oh, I got a new secret weapon in my bag. Really?
I know,
Just go
but-
play golf.
It's actually good for the sport.
I
to have
understand
somebody that
it.
could hit the ball over the moon.
But I don't know if I'm a fan of him.
Yeah.
But back to Matsuyama, he's one of. I'm forgetting how many there are, but to be the low amateur and then win the Masters is quite a feat. I know Nicklaus did it, Tiger did it, guys like that.
Jack did everything.
Jack did everything.
And I wanted to bring this up because
but that's a real cool thing, I think.
you bet. And the opening ceremony actually almost brought me to tears watching Jack Nicklaus tee off with Gary Player and the Lee Elder, presentation and so forth. That's what the Masters is all about, and that's why we talk about it. And
Sure.
we'd love to hear your feedback. Send us an email at sportswithmano@gmail.com and let us know if you feel about the Masters like we do.
And then, our boy Dustin Johnson, it's the Masters. He didn't make the cut.
Right, he's not immune to
The
getting
defending
taken down.
champion. So
Yeah.
it's the Masters. But it was the Masters. That's what, I took away watching it. It was, again,
sitting there
the
and
scenery and everything else.
At Amen Corner and the
it's-
Hogan Bridge, the pomp and circumstance is just as great as the golf. And
Right.
And you're right. There are so many young kids out there that could just,
And Schauffele, Xander Schauffele, paired with Matsuyama, got off to a little bit of a tough start, but then he had a stretch where he got 5 birdies in a row, and you really thought he was coming on.
He's always in the mix. He's got a major.
But
in his future.
I think it was on 15. He hit it into the water,
Yeah.
and you knew right then and there, Matsuyama.
There was a little controversy that the caddy may have given him the wrong club, but don't you look at the club before
but
you
he's
hit
the
it?
guy who hits the ball.
But it was awesome, right? And you're right, Steve. Welcoming back the Masters in the first weekend of April didn't disappoint.
Right, and Brooks Koepka, I give him credit for trying. I mean, his knee is obviously
he's not
very
100%.
troublesome.
Not 100%.
But Brooks Koepka needs to get healthy, and hopefully, I don't think he'll be a factor this year due to the knee. But again,
well, you're a pick dogs guy and picking the champions. I had Justin Thomas, but your guy. How about Justin Rose? How about that?
yeah,
Second day at the Masters, about Friday afternoon.
Sure.
It was awesome.
Justin Rose had he had a good showing, and
But he's susceptible to back spasms, so nobody had money on him going into it, but it was awesome. It really was awesome.
when Justin Rose misses a putt, boy, his facial expressions are.
Oh, he's got that Captain Hook nose,
Oh, absolutely. Jordan Spieth too is, he lets one go by the hole, and he's theatrical himself too.
To me, he's the Sidney Crosby. He's really, really good, but if you don't like him, he's a whiner.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. I like Justin Thomas handles himself
I do
much
too.
better.
I
on the
do
course,
too. That's a good point about
and they're
Spieth,
best friends.
about Spieth and Crosby.
Yeah.
Same kind of demeanor.
Yeah. He's good, but you just want to. So anyway, let's move on to the football side of the things, right? Jadeveon Clowney goes to the Browns.
Next.
Exactly.
Okay.
Nothing to do.
Next.
But what's the big talk about the NFL? The draft.
That's
And
right.
I got to tell you,
2
I
weeks
am
out.
tired of hearing about mock drafts. And
I love
who's
it.
going to trade. Like anybody
I love
knows that Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft are going to make a draft day bombshell trade to get who? Justin Fields. And again, it's a quarterback rich draft. And I know you're a big Mac Jones fan, and one of our loyal listeners, Tony, by the way, welcome back.
Welcome back, Tony.
Had a little medical issue or so.
Nice to hear from her, and I sent her an email back saying that Mac Jones will be in San Francisco in 2
And
weeks.
it didn't seem like she was all that, 2 thumbs up kind of thing.
Tony, listen to me here, okay?
Send us an email and let us know, Tony. But that's who you're getting.
You're
so,
getting Mac Jones, Tony.
You bet.
He's a good kid.
Yep. But enough with the draft. Like I said,
I
it's
can't
been
get
beaten to
it.
death.
I can't get enough of it. Again, I've been watching this when Kuiper and Paul, Dr. Z and all this stuff from the early '80s, right? I can't get enough of it.
Them, right?
Oh, absolutely. But Paul Zimmerman's mock draft, he was the writer for Sports Illustrated.
Yep.
Every year, I swear to God, he would get 8 out of the first top 10 wrong.
And I got this goes back when the draft was something you could actually go to. I went with my brother and we saw Paul Zimmerman and like, where do you get your information?
That's right. We've been to the draft, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Back when it was in New York City, and
Yeah.
we've met Gil Brandt, and I actually went to the bathroom with tags.
And as each number 1 pick came off, they were shaking my hand like I was Pete Rozelle.
Right.
I swear to God.
And for the record, Tags wasn't like Poppy on Seinfeld. Tags actually washed his hands after he urinated.
And it's so funny.
I did too, for the record.
And it's so funny because that particular draft, when we were standing there talking to Gil Brandt, reading all the number 1 picks as they came off the stage,
Yep.
Eddie George was one of those guys. And he was kind, polite, classy, and he was a damn good football player. And the reason I'm segueing in, because he was just named the head coach of Tennessee State.
That's right. The Tennessee State Tigers and Eddie George, exudes class.
You bet.
And he wanted to get into coaching. He's done everything from the media and everything. So good for him.
Yep.
And I think that's great. I'm rooting for him. Eddie George is one of the good guys.
You bet. And we wish them all. This is a whole new trend we're seeing. These guys are coming, former players
Right.
are taking over.
Yeah.
Let's call it small colleges, right?
Like Coach Prime, Jackson State.
The head coach at Jackson State.
Coach Prime.
His son is the quarterback, by the way.
Really? Wow. What a
I
coincidence.
guess he won the job.
Oh,
I
he
don't
must
know
have
what
won
to
it
tell
fair
you.
and square, I'm sure. At Walter Payton's alma mater.
But good luck to Eddie George. He was
Oh,
a
no
solid
question.
guy.
No question.
And it's so funny. But enough with the draft. Like I said, we'll see how it all pans out. Now Sam is in Carolina, but they haven't ruled out drafting a quarterback. So,
Yeah.
these are all the high pressure, decisions that general managers in the NFL have to make.
Right. Well, I don't know who the Dallas Cowboys are going to draft. Obviously, we need defensive help. Kyle Pitts, the tight end from Florida.
He's not going to be there unless
No.
they make a draft day trade.
I'm not saying he's going to. I'm just saying this guy.
Yeah, we're big fans.
Well,
of
his stock is pretty high. This guy is going to be a player. Yeah, I don't see him falling to 10, but the Cowboys. Listen, I know
From
we need.
what I hear, all they're talking about is defensive back.
I understand,
But I don't see the number one standout guy that's an impact player.
No,
that
they need corner help, so it's either going to be Patrick Surtain, the second. This Caleb Farley guy looks pretty good too.
Is that where they're going? They're going defensive
I
back?
think logically they should, but if the tackle from Oregon, Penny Sewell,
Who's going to be the first offensive lineman drafted?
yeah, I got to think he'll be gone too. But
He's
if
going to the Bengals to protect Joe Burrow.
I would think that would probably no, that's where I think he'll wind up going.
Absolutely where he's going.
But we'll see how it shakes out. But the quarterbacks are in the news. Fields is in play. I think Atlanta's going to take this Trey Lance kid.
And you know what happens when you're talking about a class like this? There's 5, right? 5, potentially 6 number 1 draft picks. You know that at least 2, probably 3, won't work out as planned.
As
right?
always.
So it's franchise changing. It's impact for fans and the team alike. So
Yeah.
who's the best quarterback in this draft? Who would you take?
Trevor Lawrence.
Assuming that's a
Trevor
given.
Lawrence.
Number 2. That's the question.
I think Zach Wilson.
Me too.
I think they're full. I think they're slotted where they should be.
And they traded Sam to make sure Zach Wilson was the guy.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I read,
I like him too.
If
by
we
the
can
way.
stick on the draft real quick, I read an article about the Jets selecting Christian Hackenberg, which was, I know it's a second round pick, but it was the 51st overall pick. Okay, fascinating read at Maccagnan and Todd Bowles, and Maccagnan whispers to Bowles, and Bowles wasn't, didn't want.
He's a defensive
He
coach.
didn't want Christian Hackenberg. Are you kidding me? He got shoved down his throat. But I tell you, the rap on Hackenberg was he's got small hands. He had very small hands. And
Carnies.
and smelled like cabbage. That's a Mike Myers reference.
Oh, forget it. Small.
But the thing was his mental aptitude. That's what he couldn't. When the Jets drafted him, he just wilted. He had no understanding of.
that was the rap on Brownie Nagel when the Jets drafted him too.
No, but the point is, Hackenberg is one of the very few players who never really ever took a snap in a regular season game. Never did.
Not one.
Not one.
Wow.
And of course, they got rid of him as soon as they can. But even though it's not a first round all time bust, it was the 51st overall pick in Christian Hackenberg. I tell you, that's up there with the all time.
But that's the point we were talking about. We got 6 of these quarterbacks and so forth. But how many are going to actually make it in this league?
And Gruden, the Gruden quarterback camp and all this, he was like, I love Christian Hackenberg, man,
Look at the tools, the way he delivers
Right.
the ball.
So when the Jets dumped Hackenberg, they dumped him to the Raiders, Mr. Gruden, and Hackenberg lasted 3 weeks.
He didn't even make camp.
Yeah,
Right,
okay.
exactly.
I just wanted to bring that up. I thought it was a fascinating read about the decision making the Jets made when did they botch that.
Yeah. But with the draft, like I said, we're looking forward to it, but it's just been overkill for the past 2 months.
Yeah, well, we got
It's
2
been
more
going
weeks
on,
of overkill.
I guess. So let's move on to Major League Baseball, right? How about the Yankees? They're not playing.
They're awful.
They're awful right now. I mean, they're going to go on a tear and start winning.
I don't know that.
But how about the Los Angeles Dodgers?
Yeah, they're playing
Off to
as
a pretty good
advertised.
start, 12-2.
Yeah, it's the best start to a season by a defending champion, and
And big pitching matchup tonight. Clayton Kershaw, who we worship, Hall of Fame, pack your bags.
yeah,
Going against Yu Darvish
yep,
tonight.
yep. As my,
And again, there's only 150 games to go.
right, as my on the other show, Pick Dogs, I do. Mitch Wilson refers to Yu Darvish as "you garbage."
What? The guy's lights out right now. Right? That's a bad analysis.
I disagree. I think Darvish is more than serviceable.
Me too.
But back to the Yankees. They're playing awful. It's a bad look. Judge can't stay on the field. Aaron Hicks, so emotional about get at it.
Social thing, but
And
Giancarlo Stanton. He's going to hit 20 monster home runs, but overall, this is like an old man. He just turned 30 years old for crying out loud.
Again, every time I watch him, you get 2 strikes on him and throw an outside curveball or slider. Forget
And he's
about
like
it.
the 4th highest paid player in baseball, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
We got a big problem. Gleyber Torres is not looking like a bona fide shortstop.
He's a second baseman. That's why.
So that's a huge problem. We got Jay Bruce at first base.
This guy, he hasn't had,
listen,
Jay, it's like Joe Charbonneau.
Jay Bruce was a good ball player in his 20s.
Okay, and he'll hit a couple of home runs, but he's going to hit 219.
It's awful. It's an awful look. Pitching is, outside of Garrett Cole,
but I see
not good.
I see
and
Chad
Gary Sanchez is batting, I don't know, maybe about 270 right now, and before you know it, he'll be down to 208, and so there's big problems in the Bronx.
But again, there's still 145 games to go, so
I understand
they're going to be there. They're going to make the playoffs, but again, the Mets are the big name in town.
They are.
New York right now.
And there's a good matchup today. The Mets got snowed out last night, so DeGrom goes today against Carlos Gonzalez.
And I wanted to mention about Jacob DeGrom because the past few shows I've said I think Derek Cole is the best pitcher in baseball. I think DeGrom is
unquestioned.
Like there.
No, he is.
And I've always overlooked it, but not intentionally.
Unquestioned, Jacob DeGrom is the best pitcher in baseball.
It's like every single outing, he's just hard to even figure out. He's unbelievable.
He is, but what's more hard to figure out is how uncanny it is that the Mets don't score runs for this guy. I mean,
they will.
They haven't. You know how many decisions or non-decisions?
But wait till Conforto and McNeil and Davis and these guys, they will start hitting. You brought it up before. When Cohen took over the team, they're going to the playoffs and they'll win a championship within the next 3 years.
Again, the season is so young, but the Mets played the Marlins at home last week, and DeGrom throws 7 shutout, bullet innings.
And they lose.
They lose 3-0.
Yeah. That's baseball. That's baseball.
Again, I think the Met fans know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's uncanny. Really.
So listen, baseball is starting to get into the flow of things. It's spring and it's going to be summer, and it's like the baseball back.
Baseball is in full swing.
Interesting story in Major League Baseball. The lawsuit from Paul LaDuco and Joe West Joe West won his decision for libel against LaDuca, who said Joe West was on the take when the guy was on the mound. It was a pretty interesting story, and Joe West, we know, has been a controversial umpire for 20 years.
Yeah,
right?
but I commend Joe West for defending himself. That is libel to
Exactly.
a
That's
huge libel.
J.R. Ewing kind
Yeah,
of
you
stuff.
can't let that go. Joe West. I mean, I'm glad that the decision went in his favor.
$500,000.
Good
he's
for
gotta
him.
Get paid.
Yeah, but more important to defend your character and your reputation and the integrity.
Wow.
So I commend Joe West.
It was a roll the dice kind of thing.
No, I think Joe West, again, I commend him.
And the reason they said he did it because he wanted to make sure that this didn't taint his going
His
to the Hall of
character
Fame
and
as
reputation.
a,
Plain and simple.
as a Ron Luciano umpire inductee into the Hall of Fame kind of thing, right? Richie Garcia was another ump. Remember him?
Of course.
Billy Martin didn't really like him that much.
Richie Garcia is famous for being out in right field on the Jeffrey Mayer game for
That's right.
the Derek Jeter home run to right field.
That's exactly right.
Richie Garcia made that call.
Yep.
Didn't have the replay like we have now.
But there was also another thing about this, instant replay, and it came up again in the Braves-Phillies game. Clearly, if you looked at the tape, the guy never touched home plate, and they didn't turn it over. My point to you, Steve, question. Is replay working?
In baseball?
Yeah. It was clear. You saw the video,
obviously
right?
It didn't,
you saw the video.
obviously it didn't work here. I don't think it really has been working, to be honest with
Well,
you.
the Conforto thing, in a couple last week, he clearly lunged into the thing. It was in the strike zone. The game should have been
Right.
over.
And again, the umpire doesn't have any say on this. It's more, he puts his headphone on, and it's the same thing as the NFL.
Right, but who's he talking to?
He's talking to the commissioner's office or whatever.
I know.
I think they're in Secaucus or something.
who are watching the same replay we watch.
Exactly.
So how is it not over?
Oh, well, I can't, it's not clearly, and then they won't do it.
I got it.
So is it working? I would lean towards not as effective as we anticipated it would be.
It's not a perfect system. Let's call it that, right?
We got it right.
But we've seen it in the NFL clearly.
Hey,
things
he didn't touch home plate.
No, according to us, he did.
I got it.
That's the point.
I got it.
But listen, before we move off Major League Baseball, I want to bring up that this segment was sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. And again, hope all is well up there. But yesterday was Jackie Robinson Day in Major League Baseball. And it's actually pretty cool.
It is.
Every single player wore the number 42.
I've been doing that for a few years.
And if anybody deserves it, it's Jackie Robinson.
That
It's
is
just
correct.
Awesome.
And Mariano Rivera wore number 42, and he was allowed to wear number 42 because he was Mariano
I
Rivera.
think he was the last player
No,
to wear that number. In Major League
Absolutely,
Baseball.
he was the last player. But again, I think Jackie Robinson, you and I are historians, and we know
He was a pioneer.
not only a pioneer, I mean, a lot of people should really take the time to look and see just how much this guy endured.
He did.
I mean, he was a great athlete at UCLA. He was a great football player.
Yes, he was.
Served the country in World War II.
Yep.
He was a classy guy.
And what he went through just to serve the country
oh my
and go to
God.
Major League Baseball.
But really, it's unbelievable what he went through early on to be the pioneer that he was. And I think it's more than deserving for him to have a day.
And we must say also the movie with Chadwick Boseman portraying Jackie Robinson.
The late Chadwick Boseman.
was 2 thumbs up.
Oh, extremely.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
But that was a great day, and Major League Baseball. I'm glad they recognize it.
Jackie
Stay out of
Robinson.
politics,
Yeah.
but this was something to honor.
Just a classy guy, and
Oh, and another thing, while we're talking about Jackie Robinson being a pioneer, I saw Larry Doby, who was the first black player to play in the American League.
That is correct. Out of
And-
Patterson, New Jersey, Mr. Larry Doby.
And guess what stadium they're renovating?
Oh, Hinchcliffe Stadium in
Hinchcliffe
Patterson.
Stadium, which is right next to the Patterson Falls,
Yeah.
across from the Alexander Hamilton
Oh, it's been an
Monument.
absolute dump for the past 30, 40 years.
But I saw an interview with Larry Doby Jr.
Good.
And this is awesome.
Yep.
You and I played in that stadium. And believe me, it was the most intimidating place I ever played a game of football.
Right. It's the East Side Ghosts.
And it was tough. I got hit harder than I ever did in my entire, amateur football career, but I got knocked into next week.
Yeah.
But that stadium's they're jumping a lot of money into it.
It's
and
going to be named after Larry Doby.
Yeah.
And Larry Doby, obviously, was the first American League black player.
Yeah.
And for the Cleveland Indians, if I remember correctly. I think it
I
was
thought he played for the White Sox.
no, it was
too.
the Indians. Yeah, but we came up in the Indians. I want to say 1947 off the top of my head.
Okay.
But Larry Doby, another class guy, and that's great. That stadium should be named after him.
Yeah, look at it online. It's in Patterson, New Jersey, Hinchcliffe Stadium. And again, I played there. It was so daunting to me.
Yep.
But we ended up winning the game. We beat the East Side Ghosts that day.
That's
but
correct.
There was some hard hitting guys, boy.
Right.
They really-
Quick thing about Patterson was founded by Alexander Hamilton, who's the first industrialized city in the United States, and also another famous person out of there. Real quick was Abbott.
Yeah.
Lou Costello.
Oh, the statue of Lou Costello was
Correct.
on the Sopranos episode.
Absolutely.
And we're going to get to the Sopranos before we sign off today, by the way. Actually, that wasn't just an accident.
Hold That Ghost, the movie.
One of my all-time favorites.
Absolutely.
Bruce Matson. Where did
Totally.
he keep the money? In his head.
Exactly.
Anyway, so listen, real quick. NHL, the Rangers are on a roll. You got David Quinn. He's going to keep his job.
No, he's not.
Okay. So,
But
also,
the Rangers are playing better,
Yep.
and we'll see. They're playing better.
Yep. But you gotta worry about this thing. The Vancouver Canucks, they haven't played in a month.
Well, they're playing the Toronto Maple Leafs, but they got whacked by COVID.
They really did. So we brought it up before. This isn't over. It could affect everybody, but it's happening. They got to play 19 games in 31 days.
Yeah,
That's a little tough.
It is.
Especially in hockey, which is one of the most physically challenging games night after night.
That is correct.
Right? Steve, before we move on to our final segment, notable passings, I
Well-
wanted to bring this up.
go ahead.
The St. Joseph Regional High School Green Knights, we're alumni of them.
We
both
are.
played football. You were a baseball star. Had their Hall of Fame.
Uh-huh.
And they're going to recognize the 1981 basketball team who
Right.
won the Bergen County Jamboree for the first time, and the 1995 St. Joe's Green Knights football team, first undefeated team in history.
Yeah,
And there's a couple of guys that we know personally,
correct.
right? George Stewart, he's now a coach at St. Joe's.
Yeah,
Outstanding
Ah,
linebacker for this
he
program.
went on to Rutgers and had a very good career as a linebacker at Rutgers.
And his son plays for St. Joe's now.
Yeah, no, one of them.
Yep.
His older son Evan went to Boston College.
Yep.
And
He's still there.
he-
actually.
well deserving.
Yep. And I wanted to bring up another guy, Paul Masterpietro, a former football teammate of mine, sandwiched between your class and my class. But I think he's going in as a dominant wrestler in that program.
Right. Paul is still. I'm still friends with Paul. Paul's married to Jill Hennessy.
Yep. Former star of Law and
Law
Order.
and Order, Crossing Jordan, things like that.
Yep. Congratulations, Payalo.
Absolutely.
actually, so.
And on the '81 basketball team, Kenny Backert was the point guard.
Yes,
and,
he was.
We revere Kenny and dear friend of ours, and Robert Whippler. Who was my tight end.
But you look at the picture that's on the St. Joe's website, and Chris Tierney, who was a
Yeah.
classmate of mine, was
Sure.
on that team.
Yeah.
And,
Paul Walther.
yes, he was.
Paul is right. What's Paul famous for now? Like an arm wrestling champion for like
Oh God, he's Hulk
Ridiculous.
Hogan across
Ridiculous.
in that industry.
Right.
But you're right. The key to that team was Kenneth Packard.
That is correct.
And he went on the year he had for that basketball team. He ended up winning the Michael Kramer Award, which is the best athlete in a very
for
prestigious
baseball.
sports program, high school, which you also won, by the way.
I did win
2
that.
years later.
I did win that. Yes.
So congratulations, and like I said, we're very familiar with this. Is new St. Joe's Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but that was a
inaugural candidate last year, Kevin Mandillo.
Yeah.
Who I played with.
Sure.
And awesome.
Yeah.
Just
So
a
congratulations.
big honor for
yeah.
those guys.
Yeah. I just wanted to, because you brought up the Rangers are playing well, and when we talked about the NBA, I think we got to bring up that the Knicks have won 5 in a row for the first time in over 7 years. Julius Randle, I mean,
He's the biggest surprise for me in the
for
NBA.
everybody. And listen, he went off again last night. R.J. Barrett is progressing nicely. They're playing well, Thibodeau. It's just nice that the Knicks are relevant and they're. I'm serious, and they're trending up. I just want to acknowledge
What are
that.
you saying? We missed the Walt Frazier, Earl Monroe,
Ah.
Willis Reed days,
I tell you what,
Hawthorne Wingo.
you know what?
days?
I'm glad you brought up Earl Monroe. I was sitting there watching last week on TV, and it was on CBS, and there was this hour special about Winston-Salem State, North Carolina, where Earl Monroe went to play college.
I wouldn't even have got that.
It was such
And
a
I've met Earl Monroe twice.
it was such a great thing. Earl Monroe was so good in college. He averaged over 40 points a game. But there's footage of this. So they won the national championship for
What, D2?
yeah, they were D2. And it was what a history lesson for me. But seeing Earl Monroe in college, he was awesome.
And he was awesome with the Knicks.
And he is a great guy, too.
He
Earl
is.
Monroe is one of my all-time favorite athletes. And, you know, when
I actually saw Michael Case center stage with Earl Monroe.
Earl Monroe.
And we go, you did everything we
you
thought,
really,
you know?
people, you need to find this documentary. You know, it was a special. It's an hour about Earl Monroe and Winston-Salem State. Outstanding.
Yep.
It was.
And what a great pro career. And,
he was.
and he's lived his life just talking about basketball. And I told you, I met him a couple times. He lived in Oakland, New Jersey, where we're doing
we grew
production
up.
right now.
Right.
Class act. No
Highly
doubt.
recommend finding that.
Big time. So let's move on, unfortunately, to our notable passings. This is how we normally close the segment. Joe Saravo. And everyone's going, they were Googling now,
Yeah.
and, you know,
All right, we'll give you 5 seconds for Google
tick,
purposes.
tick, tick.
Go ahead.
Played Tony Soprano's father on The Sopranos in the flashbacks with Young Jr. when
Wow.
they were. He was an awesome actor. He nailed the role, and you know he did other stuff. But you would recognize him. So when you're done Googling, you're gonna go, "Oh, that was Tony Soprano's
And anything
father."
Sopranos related, you're notable passing.
You bet. Because that show is one of the top 5 of all time. It was
my
awesome.
God.
But he really was. He played some other. I think he was like in the. Oh no, he played Ron Goldman's father in some OJ movie.
Okay.
But what a role he played! It was funny.
Yeah.
Don't ever gamble, Tony. Sure, Pop. You know, that
okay,
kind of
Pop.
thing. Or what? You lose 3 fingers with a meat cleaver, right?
At Satriali's.
It was a great show, but he was a great actor.
Yes, R.I.P.
Yep. And Bernie Madoff.
Oh yeah, the news midweek on that.
I was hesitant about even mentioning it. But
You have to.
we're talking about from a notorious perspective, right? I mean, sports related. Yeah, He robbed, millions of sports athletes of their money. Biggest Ponzi scheme ever.
Wow.
Couldn't wait for him to die.
That's the Wilpons.
Couldn't wait for him to die. He finally died. 82 in jail. Yeah.
That's the way he should.
But the famous footage of him walking him down the street and people just like trying to throw punches at him. And the guy was on top of the world, but it was all phony.
It was a house of cards.
Yep.
It was really the biggest scam in history.
In history.
And
Scam.
he deserved to die in prison.
And when somebody like this, Notorious, dies, when we say R.I.P., we mean rot in peace.
Oh, sure.
Not rest in peace.
Yeah.
Rot in peace.
Hopefully he's in the cardboard box when they wheel them out.
Oh, exactly.
Or the balsa wood one. Coffin.
Because he had to sell the Gucci coffin he was dying for.
Forget about it.
And, listen, obviously today's the big pomp and circumstance with the Duke of Edinburgh is being buried today.
Of course.
We brought it up last week, his passing. And one last thing, it's kind of somber, and I don't want to close the show on a somber note, but it was a former sports athlete that you and I thought was awesome when we first saw him on the scene when he was in the Senior Bowl or the Blue-Gray game, Al Toon.
Oh, yeah.
But his daughter was a victim of a murder-suicide, and she was an outstanding athlete on her own. But when we think back, Al Toon, he was awesome.
He really was.
His career was cut short with a neck injury or
concussions
something.
too.
Right?
Yeah.
But we want to give a
absolutely
somber shout out to Al Toon because from a sports perspective, we thought he was awesome and his daughter was awesome, and it's an unfortunate turn of events.
That's terrible news.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to throw out somebody I didn't really know of until I saw that he passed. And I'll say I wasn't really familiar with his career. Leroy Keys passed away.
Yeah, you brought this
who
up.
was a running back at Purdue in the late 60s, 67, 68, I believe. Finished second in the Heisman Trophy. He's Purdue's all-time leading scorer. Okay? And he was, was very close to the program. NFL career, 4 or 5 years, Eagles, Chiefs. But again, that's why you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
And
second in the Heisman. I didn't even know that.
Absolutely.
When you dropped that on me this morning, I go, I'm not sure I could pull that out.
He's got the most touchdowns in Purdue history to this day.
We've had a lot of prominent players at Purdue too.
So Leroy Keys, I just want to say, want to look,
very good.
Our audience, go look him up. He's, that's the type of player that was great and just didn't have the notoriety. Yep. And I just wanted to say R.I.P. To Leroy Keys, Purdue.
Yep. Wow, very good. I didn't know that. Second in the Heisman. You would have taken a sawbuck off me on that. Yeah. But listen, thanks for joining us, everybody. It was our pleasure. And every week it's our pleasure to talk to you guys about sports. And like I said, we cover the gamut.
We do.
I know we didn't cover the cornhole championships, the Johnsonville cornhole championships. But let's see how things pan out.
Well, let's see how that plays out, and then we'll recap it next week.
Okay. But listen, thanks for joining us. And please send us emails at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Welcome back, Tony, Mike in Naples, and Lynch Toyota, and again, special shout out to Guy Coriano.
Yeah, get well, Guy.
We miss him, and he'll be good. Thanks. Talk to you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.